Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 69 of the Real World Productivity Q&A. We'll go with that today. Now, happy to have you here. We're going to cover a couple of really good questions. Had one about a little bit of things you can do to optimize flight time when you're traveling, as well as what you can do kind of leading into your weekend to kind of maximize that. And I've got a couple different ways of looking at that we're going to get into that can not only save you some time, but also, I feel, kind of clear up some stuff in your head, as well as make you kind of happier and enjoying that time more, which I think for myself is important, whether it's the weekend, whether it's an evening, it's a day off, it's whatever it is. So before we get into that, though, just wanted to say, if you're watching live, that's great. Feel free to ask questions. I'll be checking those out off and on as we go. If you're not watching live, that's okay too. That means you're watching probably on YouTube. You can always come join us. Check out the description. You can come join the group. It's a free productivity group on Facebook. You do have to answer a couple questions to get in. Want to make sure that you're interested in productivity, time management, automation, all that sort of good stuff. Also, if you want to stay up to date and get notifications about this, as well as reviews, updates about apps, all sorts of stuff. Actually, I just uploaded one to the channel shortly earlier today. I believe it went live for a really cool tool that I checked out called rebump.cc. But anyways, you want to stay up to date on that sort of stuff, you can click subscribe and stay up to date on the channel. So that said, let's get into it. So the very first question was, what are some during the flight airplane hacks? Okay, so I've got mine, and I think the first one will be kind of obvious, but I want to go into why. So you probably heard or seen, or you maybe hopefully already own a pair of these noise canceling headphones, which I understood a long time ago. Like, yes, they can do it. There's science behind it. I believe it. I just didn't believe that it was going to be worth it. And so I never bought a pair. You know, there always seemed like, do I want to spend the money on this? It just doesn't seem like, what's the payoff? And so for Christmas one time, I was like, yeah, you know what? I keep hearing that these are actually really good, especially when traveling. So I'll see if, someone wants to pick those up for me, because I don't want to spend the money on them. So, did that, got them and wore them, and they were amazing. And I kicked myself for not doing it years ago. That for me totally transformed it. Okay, I'm not going to lie. It didn't make flights like more comfortable. It doesn't make the seats bigger, but it really does block out the noise, really brings it down. And for myself, getting off of a flight, sometimes I just feel like kind of foggy or a little bit of a headache. And I think that was just from the noise levels. And being able to put on these noise canceling headphones for several hours and walking off the plane, I honestly can feel a physical difference. And then that obviously helps kind of mentally, like I don't feel as fatigued getting off the flight. So for me, I would say it's worth it. Obviously, if you can grab a pair, there's many brands out there. They vary widely. Just read reviews, and I would imagine get a pair that has good reviews is probably the way to go with that. But yeah, that for me was the biggest change. Barring that, if you don't want to, for whatever reason, you don't want to get those, maybe wearing earplugs or that type of a headphone. But I will say, it's tough if you have headphones that don't block some of the noise, then you're really just going to be like double blasting your head with really loud music, which one, isn't that great for you, and two, might even, give you a headache and make it worse. So that's mine. I really enjoy that. And then it leads into this other stuff that it makes me more productive because I'm more relaxed. I feel better. I can block out stuff, the people around me, it's not bugging me as much. And so I'm able to concentrate on whatever it is I'm doing, whether it's, being, writing down some notes or watching a movie or whatever it is. So secondly, if you want to be more productive on the flight, I think you really need to be realistic about this. Okay. I would say choose the easy to do things, okay? And maybe for me, it's a good time to kind of learning or getting things out of my head. So I'll go kind of two paths with that and say that, consuming media is really easy for me when I'm on the flight. I've got my headphones on, so obviously listening to things is easy. Listening to a podcast, catching up on an audiobook. I find that those are good, and you need to obviously have that stuff ready to go beforehand, or it makes it much easier. Especially then if you're going to watch a video, you probably need to have that downloaded ahead of time. So I find that that's really the best use of my time. I would say that As far as writing, I know some people, this is totally up to you. If you can fit in the seat, even if it's business first class, wherever you're at, it's tough for me to do that. And so I'll do it if I really need to, but it's generally just to like get something out of my head quickly. It's uncomfortable for me to try to use a normal laptop. So what I'll use sometimes is I've done like note cards if I'm going over like a talk or just some points maybe for a presentation or something, that's more for me. I feel comfortable. I can kind of, do it on the little table in my seat. Other than that, I would say that this one is good. It may not help your productivity, but it can make your flight a lot better. And my wife introduced this to me. She started bringing stuff for the flight attendants and, expecting nothing in return, just saying, hey, we grabbed you a little box of chocolates. We appreciate what you guys do. We know you probably have kind of a thankless task sometimes and deal with some really crappy people, and just saying thanks. And, that they're honestly, most of the time, they're just really happy. Like, oh, we appreciate you taking the time to say that. Who wouldn't? And, sometimes they've been, nice and given us something to eat or something like that. But if you go into it, generally with the idea of, hey, I expect nothing, I just kind of want to say thanks and make this better, then it's kind of a win-win. You're probably going to make somebody's day and they might do something nice for you, or you just did something nice and, hopefully you can be good with that. All right. So those are the big ones for me as far as being kind of optimizing time on a flight. And I think that really is important to be realistic with yourself about how much you're going to get done. I tend to just think of like bigger ideas of like, I'm going to listen or like listen to an audiobook. That's kind of like my goal. And then it's much easier instead of being like specific tasks. Like I'm going to go through and edit all this stuff and do this and that. I find that stuff falls apart really quickly for me. So, all right. The second question today was about, let me pull that up. What is the most productive thing you do for an hour before you start your weekend? Well, I would say it's not always an hour, but the most productive thing I do before starting my weekend, it could be kind of, and I'm going to generalize this. This is a good daily thing if you're kind of shutting down or if you're taking a day off or you're going on vacation. But a lot of it starts maybe, and again, just to go back to the weekend analogy, is ending on Friday. And so kind of closing down that day and making sure that you're closing off those loops and saying, is there anything else I need to do? And then that's pretty straightforward, I think. And then waking up, let's say on Saturday, and you wake up and you get around and you have a cup of coffee and you're sitting down. It's the weekend. What do you do? And I would say, yeah, I don't need an hour to do this, but I would kind of do the same thing where I highly encourage you to do a daily review every single day. All right, that's really part of the foundation of building up your productivity and becoming more efficient so that you can spend time doing the things that you most want to do. So do the daily review, and part of that should include, hey, it's the weekend. What do I want to do? Now, I got nothing wrong, and I think it's good to have time where, what am I going to do? I'm going to be freaking lazy. I'm going to watch Netflix today. Like, that's totally fine. But I think also a lot of times we let things get away from us. And, we had all these things we wanted to do, but, we either forgot, we didn't get to it because we ended up taking the whole weekend and watching Netflix or doing something. So write down, what is it that you actually want to do? Again, maybe being realistic with this is always good. But for example, I want to go on a hike, right? That's one thing. I want to go on a 4 or 5 mile hike. I've been talking about going to that bookstore. I'm going to go there. There's a new restaurant and we're going to go eat there on Sunday afternoon. All right. And for me, this stuff doesn't have to be complicated. It's not as, for me, detailed as like a normal daily plan and saying, okay, here's the tasks and batching and priorities, but just getting those things out. What is it that I want to do? And I find that this will make your weekends kind of like happier, I guess is the way to use it. But as far as like, are you happy? Are you content with what you're doing? And just reaching these little internal goals of doing more things that you want to do, which again, for me is the goal for this stuff. It's not about like, oh, look, I accomplished 10 things. Who cares? I don't. I want to accomplish the one thing that I want to do. And so like for me, that this weekend is going for a trail run. So I make sure that that's what I do. I get out and that's the first thing I do because I love doing it. I want to do it and it's good for me. So I go do it. And after that, I'll actually come down and do my little weekend review and say, okay, well, I got to pick up the place. We've got a few odds and ends we need to take care of around the house. And then actually there is a bookstore I want to go to. So that's one thing I'm going to do. And literally just writing it down on a Post-it note, using the best self journal, whatever it is you use for tracking. And then you can have that as a quick reference. Be like, oh, that's right. You know, I'm kind of bored. What was it I wanted to do? Go to it and get that stuff done. So I think that that would really improve anyone's happiness and just help you stay on top of things in such a good way. To me, it's been a real positive boost to getting things done and really enjoying myself more with my time off. So I will say that, you know, like anything, this can be taken too far, and hopefully I've kind of hedged enough to say, like, you know, I'm okay with having time where I don't have this like structured time. And I don't advise anyone to take this so far that you have to plan out every minute, because a lot of times that won't work, especially for relationships. You got to have time, to allow for other person doing things or having their plans to do. And that gets into communication, which is a whole nother topic. But I would say that, you know, just having these ideas and getting them out of your head about what you truly want to do is the most important part. So hopefully that's helpful. All right, I'm gonna wrap this up. I think I don't see any more questions. Let me check over here real quick. All right, well, I think that'll do it for this week. So once again, if you ever have questions and you're watching live, you can just put it on the page there in the Facebook group. If you're not watching live, you can come join us. Link is in the description, and you can ask questions there. Of course, you can also go to productivity.academy/questions and ask there, and I'll answer them as time allows during the Q&A. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.